No one expected his reaction after seeing his own daughter sleeping among pigs. William Scott Johnson was returning home after 5 long years serving in peacekeeping missions abroad. His heart raced as he drove down the dirt road leading to the small rural property inherited from his father in the countryside of Kentucky. All that time away, only one image had kept him strong: the face of his daughter Emily, who was just 2 years old when he left. But nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared him for the scene he found upon arriving at the barn behind the house. His 7-year-old daughter was lying in the middle of a litter of pigs, sleeping peacefully among the animals as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Her brown hair spread over the dirty hay, her simple little dress stained with dirt, her tiny arms hugging a piglet like it was a stuffed animal. "Dear Lord," William whispered, feeling his legs tremble. His first reaction wasn't anger or despair, as anyone would expect. Instead, something inside his chest shattered into 1,000 pieces. Tears began streaming down his bearded face before he could stop them. There was his little princess, the girl he dreamed of running into his arms, sleeping among pigs as if she had no one else in the world. Grandma Ruth, his 72-year-old mother, watched from the barn door with a heavy heart. She expected an outburst of anger from her son, shouting, maybe even cursing. After all, what father wouldn't be furious seeing his daughter in that situation? But William simply knelt in the hay beside Emily and began crying silently. "William, my son, I can explain," the old woman began, stepping forward slowly. "You don't need to explain anything, Mom," he replied, his voice choked. "I understand." And it was true. During his years of military service, William had seen children in far worse situations. He had witnessed abandonment, hunger, loneliness that made little humans cling to anything, offering even the slightest affection. What he never imagined was that his own daughter would reach this point. Emily stirred in her sleep, making a soft noise. William reached out and gently touched the girl's hair. She slowly opened her eyes, still drowsy, and took a few seconds to focus on the man in front of her. "Daddy?" she whispered, as if she couldn't believe what she was seeing. "Hi, my princess," he said, trying to steady his voice. "Daddy's home." Emily sat up slowly, still holding the piglet, and looked at her father with a mix of joy and caution. 5 years was a long time in a child's life. To her, this man was almost a stranger, even if he was her father. "You're not leaving again?" she asked in a timid little voice. "Never again, sweetheart. Never again." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just getting started. Now, back to the story. It was then that Emily did something that broke William's heart even more. Instead of getting up to hug him, she pointed to the piglets around her. "These are my friends," she said simply. "Brownie, Rosie, Popcorn, and Honey. They take care of me when I'm sad." William looked at his mother, who lowered her eyes in shame. Grandma Ruth had done what she could, but raising a child at 70 wasn't an easy task, especially after Jennifer, William's wife, had abandoned the family without explanation during his 2nd year of deployment. "Mom, where's Jennifer?" William asked, already dreading the answer. She left, son. Left the girl with me and said she wasn't coming back." The words hit William like a punch to the gut. He knew the marriage wasn't in good shape before he left, but he never imagined Jennifer would be capable of abandoning her own daughter. During those 5 years, the letters he received always said everything was fine, that Emily was growing up happy and healthy. "Why didn't anyone tell me the truth?" he asked, struggling to stay calm in front of his daughter. "Because you were serving the country, William. We didn't want to worry you even more," Grandma Ruth replied, wiping away a tear. "And besides, what could you have done from so far away?" Emily watched the adults' conversation with attentive eyes, still hugging the little piglet. To her, this was normal life. She knew no other reality beyond that small rural property, her elderly grandmother, and the animals that had become her only constant companions. "Daddy, you're like my friends," she said, changing the subject with the natural ease of children. "They're very sweet. Brownie always protects me when I have nightmares." William Scott Johnson felt a lump in his throat. His daughter was talking about pigs as if they were people. What kind of loneliness had the little girl endured to cling so tightly to animals? And how did you meet them, Princess? Grandma said when I got really sad because Mommy left, I came here to the barn and they kept me company. Ever since then, I always come here when I'm sad or scared. Grandma Ruth walked over and sat down with difficulty on the hay beside them. Her arthritic knees protested, but she ignored the pain. William, I tried my best, but after the pressure in my chest started getting worse, I couldn't chase after the girl like I used to. She'd come here and calm down, so I let her. What pressure in your chest, Mum? Oh, son, just the aches of old age. The doctor said it's a tired heart, but don't worry. I've still got plenty of firewood left to burn. William Scott Johnson realized there was much more to this story than he'd imagined. His mother, always strong and independent, was growing old and frail. Jennifer had abandoned the family, and Emily had found in the animals the affection and stability the adults couldn't provide. Daddy, do you want to see the house I built for the piggies? Emily asked, perking up for the first time. Of course, Princess. Show Daddy. Emily stood up carefully, still holding the little piglet, and led her father to a corner of the barn where she'd built a sort of fortress with old wood, cans, and scraps of tarp. It was rudimentary, but it was clear the girl had poured a lot of love into it. This is where I tell them stories, she explained proudly. And this is where we sleep when it's really cold. You sleep here often. Only when I have nightmares. Their little snores help me sleep better. William turned to his mother, who just shook her head sadly. The situation was far more complicated than he'd thought. His daughter wasn't just playing with the pigs. She'd formed a deep emotional bond with them, using them as an escape from abandonment and loneliness. Emily, what if Daddy sleeps here with you tonight? He suggested. The little girl's eyes lit up. Really? You won't think it's gross? Of course not, Princess. If it's important to you, it's important to Daddy too. And so William Scott Johnson, a decorated war veteran, spent his first night back in the United States sleeping on hay in a barn, holding his daughter while surrounded by pigs. It wasn't the reunion he'd dreamed of for 5 years, but it was exactly what Emily needed to start trusting her father again. In the early hours of the morning, William lay awake watching his daughter sleep. She had nightmares, just as she'd mentioned. She would toss and turn, mumble incomprehensible things, and sometimes cry softly without waking up. That's when the pigs would come closer to her, as if they understood her pain. The next morning, Emily woke up first and found her father still there, watching her tenderly. You didn't leave, she said, as if it were a miracle. And I never will, my dear. I promise. People always promise and then leave, she replied, with a sadness that didn't suit her 7 years. Daddy's different, Princess. Daddy only left because he had to work to take care of you all. But now I'm here to stay. Emily considered her father's words for a moment before asking, what if you change your mind? I won't change my mind. You're the most important thing in Daddy's life. Over the following weeks, William Scott Johnson established a routine. Every morning, even before breakfast, he would come to the barn to help Emily feed the pigs. The little girl visibly brightened during these moments, talking non-stop about each animal, their personalities, their habits. Brownie is the most protective, she explained while pouring feed into an improvised trough. When the neighbor Joey's dog barks too loud, he stands in front of me. And what about Rosie? Rosie is the sweetest. She always comes to lie beside me when I'm sad. William watched in fascination as his daughter had developed a deep understanding of the animals. It was as if she spoke their language, and the most remarkable thing was that the pigs truly seemed to respond to the girl's affection. Daddy, can I tell you a secret? Emily asked one day while brushing popcorn with an old brush she'd found. Of course, Princess. You can tell Daddy anything. I always knew you'd come back. I told them every night that my daddy was a hero and that one day he'd come get me. And what else did you tell them? That my daddy was the bravest man in the world and that he loved me very much, even when he was far away. William felt his eyes well up. During all those years of guilt for being away, his daughter had kept faith in him. She had created a heroic image of her absent father and shared that hope with the only friends she had. You were right, Princess. Daddy loves you more than anything in this world. I know, she said simply. That's why the piggies like you too, they know who has a good heart. But the peace of this new routine would be shaken when Mrs. Wilson, the neighborhood gossip, showed up at the property on a rainy March afternoon. Ruth, I need to talk to you, she said, stepping into the house without ceremony. What is it, Maria? Asked Grandma Ruth, serving coffee for the visitor. It's about the girl. Folks in town have been saying she lives among the pigs. They say it's not normal. William, who was fixing a nearby fence, overheard the conversation and moved closer to the window. Since when is my granddaughter's life the town's business? Grandma Ruth snapped, already irritated. Ruth, don't take it the wrong way, but people are saying the child isn't being raised right, that she sleeps in the barn, that she doesn't have proper hygiene. Who's saying this? Oh, you know how it is. Word gets around, but what worries me is that it might reach the school social worker's ears. William's blood ran cold. A social worker meant the possibility of losing custody of Emily. He stepped into the house with a serious expression. Good afternoon, Mrs. Wilson. William, so good you're back. The girl needed her father close. That's right, and I plan to stay. About this conversation you were having with my mother. Oh, William, you know it's nothing against you. But people talk, you know, and when people talk too much, sometimes it reaches ears it shouldn't. And what exactly are people saying? Mrs. Wilson shifted uncomfortably in her chair. They say the girl behaves strangely, that she prefers animals over people, that she doesn't play with other children. My daughter has been through a lot, Mrs. Wilson. She's recovering in her own way. I understand, William, but you also need to see that to those who don't know the story, it might look like neglect. That word hit William Scott Johnson like a slap. Neglect. He had spent 5 years serving his country, while his daughter faced abandonment and loneliness. And now when he was finally trying to rebuild their relationship, people were calling it neglect. What do you suggest I do? Maybe it would be good to get professional help for the girl. A psychologist, I don't know. And also improve the property a bit. You know how people judge by appearances. After Mrs. Wilson left, William sat at the kitchen table with his mother for a serious talk. Mum, I need to know everything. How are the finances? How's your health, really? And what else happened in those 5 years that I don't know about? Grandma Ruth took a deep breath before answering. Finances are tight, son. My pension isn't much, and with the medicines I need, there's little left for anything else. The house needs repairs, the barn is falling apart. And your health? The doctor said it's a heart problem. Nothing too serious yet. But I need to be careful. No heavy lifting, no stress. Why didn't you tell me any of this in your letters? Because you were already suffering far from home. Worrying you more wouldn't have helped. That night, William went to the barn to find Emily. She was telling a story to the pigs as she did every night. And then the prince came home and found the princess waiting for him, she said, sitting among the animals. What a beautiful story, Princess. Daddy! She jumped up and ran to hug him. Did you come to hear the story too? Whenever you want, I'll be here, but I need to talk to you about something important. What is it? Some people in town are saying it's not good for you to spend so much time in the barn. Emily's face immediately darkened. They don't understand. They've never had real friends like I do. I know, Princess, and Daddy understands too. But maybe we could make this place better for your friends, huh? How? What if we fix up the barn to make it prettier, cleaner, more comfortable for the piggies? Emily's eyes lit up. Really, we can do that? We sure can, but I need your help. Can you teach me how each piggy likes things? I can. I know everything about them. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. The next day, William went to town looking for work. His military pension helped, but it wasn't enough for the repairs he needed. He got a job at Mr. Henderson's shop, a 60-year-old man who had served in the army decades earlier. So, you're the William Scott Johnson everyone's been talking about? Mr. Henderson asked, examining his military papers. Unfortunately, yes. Don't listen to small-town gossip, son. I know what it's like to come back from war and find life turned upside down. When I got back from my service, my first girlfriend had married someone else. But in my case, it's my daughter who's paying the price. And you're here looking for work to make her life better. That says a lot about your character. When can you start? Right now, if you'll let me. I like a man who's decisive. Let's see what you can do. Over the following weeks, William Scott Johnson established a demanding routine. He worked at the shop from 7 in the morning until 5 in the afternoon, came home, ate dinner quickly, and then went to the barn to help Emily with the pigs. On weekends, he began renovating the barn with his daughter's help. "Daddy, I think Rosie wants her own little corner to sleep in," Emily suggested, watching him work. "Then we'll make a special little spot for Rosie. And Brownie needs a high place to keep watch. He likes protecting everyone. We'll build a platform for Brownie too." With each suggestion from his daughter, William incorporated something new into the project. What started as a simple renovation turned into a true dream home for the pigs. And most importantly, Emily was excited, engaged, and happy. But the happiness didn't last long. One April morning, William received a call that would change everything. "Hello, is this Mr. William Scott Johnson?" asked a formal female voice. "Yes, speaking. This is Sarah Thompson, the social worker from the public school. I need to schedule a visit to assess the living conditions of the minor Emily Johnson." William's heart raced. "May I ask why?" "We've received some reports about possible neglect. It's standard procedure, Mr. Johnson. No need to worry if everything is in order. When would you like to come? How about next Monday at 2 in the afternoon? That'll be fine." William hung up the phone with trembling hands. He had only a week to get everything in order. The barn renovation was halfway done, the main house needed urgent repairs, and Emily still spent most of her time with the pigs. "Mom, I need your help," he said to Grandma Ruth. "What happened, son?" "The social worker is coming next week. I need to make everything look normal." "What are you going to do?" "First, I'll finish the barn renovation. Second, I'll fix up the whole house. And third, I'll try to convince Emily to spend less time with the pigs." The last part would be the hardest. When William tried to explain to Emily that she'd need to stay inside more, the girl had her first panic attack since he'd returned. "No! I won't leave my friends!" she screamed, clinging to the pigpen fence. "Princess, it's just for a few days, until the lady's visit is over." "What lady?" "I don't have an aunt. She's a lady from the government who wants to meet you." "I don't want to meet anyone. I want to stay with my friends." Emily began sobbing uncontrollably, and the pigs grew restless at her distress. Brownie, the most protective of the litter, started grunting threateningly at William. "Calm down, Princess, calm down," he tried to soothe her. "No one's going to take you away from your friends. Promise? I promise?" But William knew he might not be able to keep that promise if the social worker deemed the situation unsuitable. He needed a solution that would protect Emily without separating her from the animals that had become her family. Then he had an idea. He sought out the local vet, Dr. Mitchell, a 50-year-old man known for his wisdom and experience. "Doctor, Mitchell, I need a professional opinion." "About what, William?" "About my daughter and her relationship with our pigs." William told the whole story. The mother's abandonment, the years alone with her elderly grandmother, the emotional bond with the animals, the social worker's impending visit. "You know, William, it's not uncommon for children to bond with animals after emotional trauma," the vet said after listening. "How so?" "Animals offer something humans don't always provide: unconditional love, constant presence, no judgment. For an abandoned child, that can be therapeutic. So it's not harmful. On the contrary, it can be very beneficial. I've handled several cases of children who overcame trauma through interaction with animals. And what do you suggest I do? Document everything. Take notes on the girl's behavior. Photograph the environment. Record videos of her interacting with the animals. Show that it's not neglect. It's natural therapy." That conversation gave William Scott Johnson new hope. He spent the weekend documenting Emily's routine with the pigs, filming their affectionate interactions, and recording how the animals comforted her when she was sad. On Monday, at exactly 2 in the afternoon, Sarah Thompson arrived at the property. She was a 40-year-old woman with a serious demeanor, a notepad in hand, and an expression that gave nothing away. "Good afternoon, Mr. Johnson. I'm social worker Sarah Thompson. Good afternoon, welcome. This is my mother, Grandma Ruth, and this is my daughter, Emily. Emily hid behind her father, clearly frightened by the stranger's presence. Hello, Emily. What a beautiful girl. How old are you? 7, she answered softly, still behind her father. And what do you like to do most? Emily looked at her father as if asking permission to answer. You can tell her, sweetheart. I like taking care of my friends. What friends are those? The piggies. Sarah jotted something down in her notepad. Can you show me where these piggies are? Emily hesitated, but curiosity won out. She led the social worker to the barn, now renovated and impeccably organized. William had worked day and night to make everything perfect. Wow, what a tidy place, Sarah remarked, clearly surprised. Daddy fixed everything so my friends would be more comfortable, Emily explained, brightening a little. And do you spend a lot of time here? I come often to feed them and talk to them. Talk about what? Everything. About school, about Daddy, about my dreams. Sarah watched closely as Emily interacted with the animals. The pigs clearly recognized the girl and responded to her affection. There was nothing dangerous or inappropriate about the situation. Mr. Johnson, may I speak with you privately? Of course. Emily, stay here with your friends. We'll be right back. They stepped a few feet away from the barn. Mr. Johnson, I received reports that your daughter exhibited inappropriate behavior and lived in unsanitary conditions. And what do you think? Honestly, I'm surprised. The environment is clean, organized. The child shows genuine affection for the animals and they for her. I don't see any neglect here. William felt immense relief. But, Sarah continued, I need to better understand the girl's emotional history. Her mother's abandonment, the time away from her father, that could have consequences. I understand and I'm willing to seek professional help if needed. I recommend seeing a child psychologist, not because anything's wrong, but to help her process everything she's been through. I'll arrange that right away. And Mr. Johnson, may I offer a personal opinion? Of course. I think what you've built here is beautiful. The girl has a healthy bond with the animals, she's well cared for, and she has a family who loves her. Whoever reported you clearly doesn't understand. 2 weeks later, William sat in the waiting room of child psychologist Dr. Jessica's office in the city center. Emily played with some educational toys, seemingly carefree. Emily Johnson, called a middle-aged woman with a warm, welcoming smile. Hi, Emily replied shyly. I'm Dr. Jessica. How about we chat for a little while? During the hour-long session, Dr. Jessica conducted simple tests and talked with Emily about her routine, her fears, and her dreams. William waited anxiously in the lobby. Mr. Johnson, may we talk? The psychologist asked afterward. How is she, doctor? Your daughter is an intelligent, sensitive child, emotionally mature for her age. Her bond with animals is completely healthy and is serving as natural therapy for the trauma of abandonment. So there's no problem. No serious problems. She has some self-esteem issues related to her mother's abandonment, but nothing that can't be worked through. In fact, I'm impressed by her resilience. What do you recommend? Keep doing exactly what you're doing. You came back, you're present, you're respecting her emotional world. That's crucial. William Scott Johnson left the office relieved and proud. His daughter was okay, she was healing, and he was on the right path. But life rarely allows happiness to last long without interruptions. One May morning, Grandma Ruth fainted in the kitchen while preparing breakfast. William found her on the floor and immediately took her to the hospital. It's her heart, son, the doctor said after the tests. She needs special care, complete rest and controlled medication. Doctor, will she be okay? With proper care, yes. But she can't exert herself, can't get stressed, can't lift anything heavy. William realized his responsibilities had grown drastically. Now he had to care for his sick mother, his emotionally recovering daughter, and still work to support the family. Emily was terrified when she saw her grandmother in the hospital. Is Grandma going away like Mommy did? She asked, her eyes full of tears. No, sweetheart. Grandma is just sick, but she'll get better. Promise she won't leave. I promise. But now you'll have to help Daddy take care of her, okay? I'll help, I know how. I take care of the piggies, I can take care of Grandma too. During the days Grandma Ruth was hospitalized, William had to split his time between work, the hospital, and caring for Emily. It was an exhausting period, but it brought father and daughter even closer. "Daddy, you're really tired," Emily observed one night, watching him doze in the chair beside Grandma's bed. "I'm fine, sweetheart. The piggies said you need to rest more." "The piggies said that? They know when someone we love is hurting." William realized his 7-year-old daughter had already developed an incredible sensitivity to others' pain, likely a result of her own experience with loss. When Grandma Ruth finally came home, the whole family dynamic changed. She could no longer handle heavy chores, couldn't care for Emily alone, and couldn't even climb stairs without help. "William, maybe it's best to look into a full-time school for Emily," she suggested one afternoon. "I can't keep up with her anymore." "No, Mom, we'll figure it out. Emily needs stability right now." "But how will you work and take care of both of us at the same time?" It was a question William had no answer for. He was reaching his physical and emotional limit, working all day, coming home to care for his mother and daughter, and still managing the property and animals. Then unexpected help arrived. Mr. Henderson, the shop owner, showed up at the property one Saturday afternoon. "William, came to see how you're holding up." "We're fine, Mr. Henderson. Thanks for asking." "Liar. You look like you haven't slept in weeks." William sighed. "No use pretending." "It's hard, Mr. Henderson, really hard." "I figured. That's why I brought a proposal." "What proposal?" "How about you work part-time at the shop and use the rest of your time to develop a project here on the property?" "What kind of project?" "You've seen how your daughter connects with animals. And I know there are other children in the area going through similar hardships. What if we turned this into a social project?" The idea was intriguing, but William Scott Johnson couldn't see how it would work. "Mr. Henderson, I don't even know where to start. I'll help you. I have some contacts at City Hall, people who work with social projects. We can get support. But I have no experience with this kind of thing." "You have life experience, William. That's worth more than any diploma." That night, William talked to Emily about the idea. "Sweetheart, how would you feel if other children came here to meet your piggy friends?" "Other children?" "Yes, kids who might be sad like you were before." "Could they play with Brownie and Rosie?" "They could, but only if you wanted to teach them how to take care of the animals." Emily's eyes lit up. I want to teach them. The piggies love helping sad people." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now continuing. With Mr. Aid Henderson's support, William began researching animal-assisted therapy. He discovered similar programs across the country that really worked, bringing positive results for children with emotional trauma. The first step was legalizing the animal's status. William arranged all the necessary vaccinations, health records, and veterinary certificates. He also renovated more areas of the property to safely welcome visitors. 2 months later, they received their first child. Tyler, a 9-year-old boy who had lost his father in an accident, was struggling in school, showing aggression and having trouble sleeping. "Hi, Tyler," Emily said when he arrived. "Want to meet my friends?" Tyler was closed off and wary, but Emily's natural warmth slowly broke down his defenses. "Are they real pigs?" he asked. "Yes, and they're very sweet. Want to pet Brownie?" Tyler hesitated, but eventually reached out to touch the animal. The pig gently approached and let the boy stroke him. "He's warm," Tyler observed, surprised. "That's because he has a big heart," Emily explained, "and they all do." For 2 hours, Emily taught Tyler about each animal, their names, personalities, and how to care for them. The boy, who had arrived scowling and tense, gradually opened up, smiling and relaxing. "Can I come back tomorrow?" he asked as he was leaving. "Of course. Rosie will love seeing you again." Over the following months, the project grew organically. More children began visiting the farm, always accompanied by parents or guardians, supervised by William and guided by Emily, who proved to be a natural little therapist. "Daddy, look. Peter can feed popcorn all by himself now." She celebrated each small progress the other children made. William watched in awe as his daughter found her purpose. Helping other children seemed to heal her own emotional wounds. She became more talkative, more confident, happier. But as always, just when everything seemed to fall into place, life had another test in store. One September morning, an elegant woman appeared at the farm. William recognized her immediately, even after 5 years. It was Jennifer, his ex-wife. "Hi, William," she said, as if she'd left just yesterday. "Jennifer," he replied, trying to hide his shock. "Can I come in? We need to talk." William led her to the porch, away from where Emily played with the children in the barn. "What are you doing here?" "I came to take our daughter." The words hit William like a bolt of lightning. "What do you mean, take her?" "I'm married again, William. My husband is financially stable, and we can offer Emily a better life. You abandoned our daughter, Jennifer, left her with my elderly mother and disappeared. I was going through a hard time. I couldn't handle the loneliness, the responsibility. But now I'm better. I'm ready. And you think you can just come back and take Emily like she's some object you forgot here? I'm her mother, William. I have rights." "Rights? What rights? You gave up those rights when you left." Jennifer sighed and changed tactics. "William, look around you. You live in an old house, your mother is sick, you work in a repair shop. I can offer a big house, private school, health insurance. And you think that's what matters? It's what any responsible parent would want for their child." Just then, Emily came running in. "Daddy, Tyler managed to give Brownie a bath all by himself," she shouted, excited. When she saw the strange woman on the porch, she froze. "Who's that lady, Daddy?" William Scott Johnson felt the ground disappear beneath his feet. How do you explain to a 7-year-old that this woman was the mother who abandoned her? "Emily, this is a visitor." Jennifer crouched down to the girl's height. "Hi, sweetheart. Don't you remember me?" Emily hid behind her father. "She's weird, Daddy." "Emily, I'm your mother." The girl's eyes widened and she clung tightly to William's leg. "No, my mom left. This isn't my mom." "Yes, I am, sweetheart. Mommy came back to take you with me." "I don't want to go. I want to stay with Daddy and my friends." Emily started crying, and the pigs, hearing her distress, began grunting loudly in the barn. "Jennifer, I think you'd better leave," said William, picking Emily up. "I'm not leaving without my daughter, William. If I have to, I'll fight for my rights in court." "Then fight. But today you're leaving my property." After Jennifer left, it took William an hour to calm Emily down. She had a severe panic attack and only settled when she went to the barn to be with the pigs. "Daddy, is that lady going to take me away from my friends?" she asked, crying. "No, Princess. Daddy won't let anyone take you." "Promise?" "I promise." But William knew the promise would be hard to keep. Jennifer did have legal rights as the biological mother, and if she went to court, things could get complicated. The following week, William received a court summons. Jennifer had indeed filed for custody. The hearing was set for a month later. "What are we going to do, son?" asked Grandma Ruth, worried. "We'll fight, Mom. We'll show the judge that Emily is happy here, that this is where she wants to stay." William hired a lawyer, but the news wasn't encouraging. "Mr. Johnson, the biological mother's rights are very strong in the United States," explained Attorney Reynolds, the family lawyer. "But she abandoned the child for 5 years. That works in your favor, but it's no guarantee. We'll need to prove the child is better off with you, that she has established bonds here, and that removing her would be harmful." "How do we prove that?" "With witnesses, psychological evaluations, documents showing your dedication as a father." In the weeks leading up to the hearing, William gathered every piece of evidence he could. School reports on Emily's progress, psychological evaluations confirming her emotional stability, neighbor testimonies about his community work, and vet certificates for the animal's care. Dr. Jessica, the psychologist, was especially crucial. "Attorney Reynolds, I can say without a doubt that removing Emily from this environment now would be extremely harmful," she said in a preparatory meeting. "Why?" "She found emotional stability through her bond with her father and the animals. She's building self-esteem by helping other children. A sudden change could cause irreversible trauma." "Would you be willing to testify to that in court?" "Absolutely." On the day of the hearing, the courthouse was full. Besides William Scott Johnson and Jennifer, Grandma Ruth, Dr. Jessica, Mr. Henderson, some parents of children who attended the project, and even the veterinarian Dr. Mitchell were present. The judge, Judge Robert Williams, was a 60-year-old man known for his experience in family cases. Mr. Johnson, can you explain your version of events? William Scott Johnson told the whole story. His military service, abandoning his family, his return, the situation he found, rebuilding his bond with his daughter, the social project. And you, Ma'am, can you present your version? The judge asked Jennifer. Your Honor, I went through a period of depression after Emily was born. I couldn't take proper care of her. When my husband was called for military service, I felt alone and abandoned. I made the wrong decision to leave, but now I've recovered, remarried, and am in a position to offer a better life for my daughter. And why do you believe you can offer a better life? I have financial stability, my current husband has a good job, we can afford private school, health insurance, everything a child needs. Mr. Johnson, how do you respond to that? Your Honor, money isn't everything. My daughter has established connections here. She's emotionally stable, developing important social work. Taking her away would destroy everything we've built together. The judge then called the witnesses. Dr. Jessica was emphatic about the risks of a sudden change. Mr. Henderson spoke about William Scott Johnson's dedication and the positive impact of the social project. The other children's parents shared how Emily had helped their kids. Your Honor, may I call the minor to testify? Asked William Scott Johnson's lawyer. In cases involving children, I prefer to do this in private. I'll speak with the girl alone. For 20 minutes, the judge talked with Emily in a separate room. When they returned, the girl's face was red from crying. I'll make my decision and inform the parties next week, the judge announced. Those were the 7 longest days of William Scott Johnson's life. Emily became extremely anxious, had nightmares every night, and only calmed down in the barn with the pigs. Daddy, if that woman takes me, I'll run away and come back, she said one of those nights. You won't need to run, sweetheart. Everything will be fine. On the appointed day, everyone returned to the courthouse. The judge looked solemn as he began reading his decision. After reviewing all the evidence presented, considering the best interests of the child, and taking into account especially the minor's own testimony, I rule that custody shall remain with the father, Mr. William Scott Johnson. William Scott Johnson felt his legs weaken. Emily, standing beside him, began crying with relief. However, the judge continued, I order that the mother, Miss Jennifer, shall have the right to bi-weekly supervised visits, so she may gradually rebuild her bond with her daughter. Jennifer left the courthouse visibly upset, but she didn't appeal. Perhaps she realized forcing the situation would be worse for everyone, especially Emily. The supervised visits began a month later. At first, Emily refused to speak to Jennifer, clinging to her father the whole time. But little by little, with patience and no pressure, they built a new kind of relationship. She's not the mum who left me anymore, Emily explained to William Scott Johnson after a few months of visits. Now she's just Jennifer who comes to visit. The distinction was important to the girl. She had created a separate emotional category for the woman who gave birth to her and for the person trying to rebuild a relationship with her. Meanwhile, the social project kept growing. What started with a few local children had become a program recognized by the city. William Scott Johnson secured official support and even a small budget to maintain the structure. Daddy, look, Charlie can brush the piggies all by himself now. Emily would cheer every time one of the kids in the project overcame a challenge. Seeing his daughter turn her own trauma into a healing tool for other children was one of William's greatest joys. She had become a little therapist, teaching by example that it was possible to overcome pain and find purpose in life. 2 years had passed since William's return. Emily was now 9, doing well in school, keeping the social project running, maintaining a cordial relationship with Jennifer during their bi-weekly visits, and still being the pig's best friend. Daddy, can I tell you something? She asked one afternoon while helping feed the animals. Of course, sweetheart. You can tell me anything. Remember when you found me sleeping here in the barn? I do. I thought you'd be mad and take me away. Why weren't you scared? Because the piggies told me you had a good heart. They know these things. William smiled and hugged his daughter. Were they right? Yes, you're the best daddy in the world. That night, after putting Emily to bed, William went to the barn where it all began. The pigs slept peacefully in their cozy spots. The place that once represented abandonment and loneliness was now a symbol of love, healing, and hope. He remembered the day he arrived and found his daughter there, sleeping among the animals. His first reaction hadn't been anger or disgust, but deep understanding. Perhaps his years of military service, seeing children in tough situations around the world, had taught him to look beyond appearances and see what truly mattered. "Thank you," he whispered to the pigs, as if they could understand. "Thank you for taking care of my girl when I couldn't." The next day was Saturday, volunteer day at the project. Several families would come with their kids for animal activities. Emily always woke up excited on these days. "Daddy, today Carly's going to try petting Rosie for the first time," she said during breakfast. "Do you think she'll do it?" "I'll help her, just like you helped me stop being afraid to trust people." The wisdom of that 9-year-old sometimes amazed William. She had turned her abandonment experience into the ability to comfort other wounded children. That morning, 12 kids between 5 and 12 participated in the activities. Each had their own story of hardship: divorced parents, moving towns, family losses, school bullying. And each, in their own way, found some comfort in the animals' company and Emily's early wisdom. "Grandma Ruth, did you know your granddaughter is an angel?" remarked Susan, one of the mothers. "I've always known, dear," the older woman replied, watching Emily teach a shy boy how to feed corn to the pigs. "But the credit goes to my William. He knew what truly mattered when he came back." In the afternoon, after all the families left, William and Emily did their usual cleanup and animal care. "Daddy, do you think when I grow up I can have a place like this to help more kids?" she asked. "I'm sure you can do anything you want, sweetheart." "Then I want to help all the sad kids like I was." "And how will you do that?" "I'm going to study to learn more about animals and people's feelings. And I'll always remember that sometimes the most important things are in places folks find strange." That evening after dinner, the family gathered on the porch to talk. It had become their routine. Every night before bed, each would share how their day went. "Grandma, how was your day?" asked Emily. "It was good, sweetheart. I spoke with the children's mothers, took my medicine right on time, and saw y'all doing good for so many people. Couldn't ask for a better day." "What about you, Daddy?" "My day was perfect, Princess. Worked at the shop this morning, saw you helping other kids this afternoon, and now I'm here with the two people I love most in this world." "And you, Emily?" asked Grandma Ruth. "My day was the best ever. I helped Sarah not be scared of Rosie anymore, taught Michael how to brush Brownie, and discovered that when we help others, we feel happy too." Later, when Emily was already asleep, William Scott and Grandma Ruth kept talking on the porch. "William, you know you made the right choice that day, don't you?" "What day, Mom?" "The day you arrived and found the girl in the barn. Many fathers would have reacted differently." "How so?" "They'd have gotten angry, forced changes, tried to normalize the situation quickly. You chose to understand first. And did that make a difference?" "Made all the difference in the world. Emily learned she can trust you because you accept her as she is." It was true. All these years, William Scott had never tried to force Emily to give up her bond with animals. Instead, he'd worked to make that relationship even healthier and turn it into something positive for others too. 3 years passed. Emily was now 12, and the community project had become well known in the area. Vet students interned there. Psychologists visited to learn about animal-assisted therapy. Other towns wanted to replicate it. "Daddy, the school principal said I can do a presentation about our project at the science fair," Emily said excitedly. "How wonderful! What will you talk about?" "About how animals can help heal people's hearts." "And how will you explain that?" "I'll tell our story. How you found me sleeping with the piglets, and instead of getting mad, you understood I needed them. And how that became a way to help other kids." On Science Fair Day, Emily's presentation was a hit. She spoke naturally about emotional trauma, animals' role in children's recovery, empathy and understanding. The audience sat in silence, moved by the girl's maturity and wisdom. My conclusion is that sometimes what seems strange to others is exactly what we need to feel okay, she said, wrapping up. And that true love is when someone tries to understand us instead of trying to change us. The crowd burst into applause. William Scott, sitting in the front row, cried with pride. Afterward, many approached to speak with Emily and William Scott, among them a local TV reporter. "Mr. Johnson, could we do a story about your project?" "If Emily agrees, it's fine by me. What about you, Emily? Would you like to be on TV talking about your work?" "Only if it helps more sad children." The segment aired a week later and reached far beyond the region. The farm phone rang constantly with inquiries, speaking invitations, support offers and donations. "Daddy, so many people want to know about our project," Emily said, thrilled by the attention. "That's because you all built something special here." "No, Daddy, we built it. You, me, Grandma and the piggies too." Emily's humility and sense of community never ceased to amaze William Scott Johnson. Despite all the recognition, she never forgot that it was the result of teamwork. 6 months after the news feature, they received a special visit. The State Secretary of Social Services wanted to see the project in person. "Mr. Johnson, we're considering supporting similar projects in other towns," the Secretary said after touring the facilities. "It would be an honor to help with that," William replied. "And you, Emily, would you like to help train other children to become ambassadors for the project?" "I'd love to, but on one condition." "What's that?" "You have to explain to people that the animals aren't tools. They're our partners. They feel, they suffer, and they're happy when they help someone too." The secretary smiled, impressed by the girl's awareness. "Don't worry, we'll make that very clear." That evening, during their family talk on the porch, Grandma Ruth made an observation that stayed with everyone. "You know what makes me proudest about you two?" "What, Grandma?" "You turned something that could have been seen as a problem into a solution for so many others." "How so?" "Emily sleeping in the barn with the pigs could have been seen as neglect, something that needed fixing. But you saw it was her way of coping with pain, and you turned it into a way to help other children cope with theirs too." It was a profound thought. William had never considered it that way, but she was exactly right. Instead of trying to fix his daughter's behavior, he'd worked to make it even more positive and meaningful. In the years that followed, the project kept growing. Emily became a thoughtful teenager committed to social causes. She still worked with the children in the program, but now she also gave talks, attended conferences, and wrote articles for specialized magazines. "Daddy, the university offered me a full scholarship to study veterinary medicine," she told him at 16. "That's wonderful. Do you want to accept?" "I do, but on one condition." "What?" "I want to study nearby so I can keep helping with the project." "Emily, you don't have to limit yourself because of the project. We'll make it work." "It's not a limitation, Daddy. It's a choice. This is my home. These are my roots. I could study anywhere, but this is where I want to work to change the world." William smiled. His daughter had grown up, but she kept the same values and sense of purpose she'd developed as a child. At Emily's college graduation 5 years later, William reflected on how far they'd come. The little girl he'd found sleeping among pigs at 7 was now a licensed veterinarian, a specialist in animal-assisted therapy, and a leading voice in the field. "Dr. William Scott Johnson," she teased, using the honorary title he'd received for his social work. "Dr. Emily Johnson," he replied, beaming. "You know what makes me happiest, Daddy?" "What?" "That our piggies are growing old with us. Brownie is 12 now, practically ancient for a pig. Do you think they know how important they've been in our lives?" "I'm sure they do. They've always known everything." That night, after the graduation party, William visited the barn where it all began. Now a modern facility with everything a professional social project needed, it stood as a testament to how far they'd come. But the essence remained the same. It was a place where wounded children found healing through the unconditional love of animals. Brownie, now an elderly pig, approached when he saw William Scott Johnson. Even with his advanced age, he still had the protective instinct that had comforted Emily so many years before. "Thank you, old friend," said William, petting the animal. "Thank you for taking care of my daughter when I wasn't here." It was then that he noticed Emily had arrived too. "I always come here when I want to give thanks for everything that happened," she said, joining her father. "Give thanks for what?" "For you understanding that sometimes love comes in strange ways. If you had taken me away from here that first day, do you think it would have been different?" "I'm sure of it. I was in a very fragile place. If you had forced changes, I might have closed myself off even more. But you chose to step into my world instead of forcing me into yours. And did that make a difference?" "It made all the difference. I learned I can trust people, that I can be accepted as I am, that I can turn my struggles into strength to help others." "And what do you plan to do now that you've graduated?" "Expand our project. I want to create a methodology that can be replicated across the country. I want to train other professionals, write books, do scientific research. And our little pigs? They'll keep being our first partners. They're the ones who taught us everything." 2 years later, Emily published her first book, Animal-Assisted Therapy, The Experience of a Child Who Found Healing in the Barn. The book became a reference in the field and was translated into multiple languages. In the dedication, she wrote, "To my father, who chose love over judgment, to my grandmother, who did what she could with the love she had, to my first therapists, Brownie, Rosie, Popcorn, and Honey, and to all the children still searching for their place in the world, you will find it in the most unexpected way possible." During the book launch, a journalist asked William what the secret to the project's success had been. "There was no secret," he replied. "I just chose to believe my daughter knew what she was doing, even when it seemed strange to everyone else. And if you could give advice to other parents in similar situations, observe before judging, try to understand before changing, and remember that sometimes healing comes from the most unexpected places." Emily, sitting beside her father, added, "And remember that children are wiser than they seem. Sometimes they find solutions adults can't see." Years passed. The project that began in a small barn in Kentucky became a national model. Hundreds of children were helped, dozens of professionals were trained, and many cities created similar initiatives. Grandma Ruth, now 85, continued to follow everything closely, always offering wise advice and words of encouragement. "Do you know the most beautiful part of this whole story?" she asked one afternoon, watching Emily work with a group of children. "What, Grandma?" "That it all started with a man who had the courage to lie in the dirty hay beside his daughter instead of pulling her away. A simple act, but one that changed hundreds of lives." William reflected on his mother's words. It was true. The decision to accept and understand rather than judge and force change had been the starting point for everything they built together. "And do you know the most important lesson I've learned from all this?" he asked. "What, Dad?" "That true love isn't about trying to change people to fit them into our world. It's about expanding our world so there's room for them in it." Emily smiled and hugged her father. "That's what you did for me, Dad." She expanded her world to include girls who sleep with pigs, unexpected social projects, and a different way of seeing life. And it was the best thing I ever did. That evening, as they had done for so many years, the family gathered on the porch to talk about their day. But this time there was a special surprise. "I have something to tell you all," said Emily. "What is it?" asked William Scott Johnson and Grandma Ruth together. "I received an offer to take our project to other countries. They want me to set up an international cooperation program." "How wonderful," cheered Grandma Ruth. "And will you accept?" asked William. "Only if you all agree to come with me. Our team is still you, me, Grandma, and our piggy friends." "Emily, you don't have to include us out of obligation." "It's not an obligation, Dad, it's a choice. I learned from you that the best things in life happen when we work together, when we support each other, when we believe in one another. And that's how the story of the girl who slept with pigs turned into an international mission to bring hope and healing to children around the world. All because a veteran father chose love over judgment on that distant day when he found his daughter sleeping in the barn. Years later, when reporters asked about the moment that changed everything, William Scott Johnson always gave the same answer. It wasn't a moment that changed everything. It was a choice that changed everything. The choice to trust that my daughter knew what she was doing, even when no one else understood. And Emily would always add, and the choice to turn something that seemed like a problem into a solution for many problems. That's the magic of love. It doesn't change people. It reveals the potential that was always there. The end of the story. So, dear listener, what did you think of this touching story? Tell us in the comments if you've ever been in a situation where someone understood you when everyone else judged. Do you think William Scott Johnson made the right decision? Leave your honest opinion below. And don't forget to give us a thumbs up, it really helps our channel. And most importantly, subscribe so you don't miss other heartwarming stories like this one.